Hello there. We all good to go? Excellent. Well, hi there. My name is Bob Chambers, and I'm really glad to be here to talk with you today. Um, there's a lot going on in the digital space, and this idea of rebooting is a big part of my world as well. Before we could go going too far, I wanted to thank Giuliano Lasani and for his help in getting me here, and as well as Samara Isaacs. They're both speaking, or maybe they already spoke as part of the Campus Party Digital Edition. So if they haven't, you can go check them out. Okay, so some quick logistics. I wanted to apologize in advance because I normally like to have a very interactive chat and presentation. But I have a lot to cover in a very short amount of time, so I'm going to ask you to hold the questions until the end, and then we can go through them. And don't worry if we don't get through all the questions. I'm a big fan of communication after these talks, so you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to you at any time later. So let's dive in, okay? So I have three things I wanted to talk about today. I call them my digital initiatives, mostly because I spend a lot of time in the physical world, and it's a big part of who I am. But there is a change brewing, and I can feel a change brewing in my world as well. And that's part of what I want to talk about today. So from a digital standpoint, I have three digital initiatives. They are a thing called Ask.Buzz. The second one is a thing called gathersmart.com. And the third one is this idea of the digital theme park visit. And we'll go through all three of them. But before I dive too much into those, let me give you a little context about myself so you know where I'm coming from. So the red circle is me. That's me when I was probably closer to your age. I'm a little bit geeky. I still am. I was a builder. I still am a tinkerer. I was a computer programmer, even when I was in high school, junior high, and we had not very good computers back then. I was a game player and a techie. So for me, I ended up going to engineering school since I was good at science and math, but I did come from that those sort of beginnings. So for me now, I spend a lot of time in the theme park industry and the entertainment world. I'm one of the co-CEOs of a company called the Producers Group in Glendale, California. And I am lucky enough that I get to design and build theme parks and theme park attractions all over the world. And they're very cool, but I'm still sort of, interested in other areas, and I like problem solving with technology, and I feel like there's another side to this, which we'll get to in a minute. Before I do that, let me just talk a little bit about two organizations that I volunteer for, and they may be interesting to you as somebody who might be interested in this industry. The first one is called the Ryerson Invitational Thrill Competition, which is sponsored by Universal Studios, and it's actually Universal Creative, which is their theme park design arm. I was fortunate enough to be asked to be a judge last year for the RITC competition, and enjoyed that a lot. It was really, I had a blast. If you're interested in this kind of competition and that type of access to the theme park design industry in a sort of college atmosphere, I encourage you to reach out to Professor Catherine Woodcock. That's her picture there. You can reach out and talk to her about getting involved. It's a great group, and the students learn a lot. Let me just quickly tell you about the second one. I'm also on the board of what's called the Themed Entertainment Association. The TEA has a group within it called NextGen, which focuses primarily on giving information and doing events for people looking to enter into the theme park design world. And so I encourage you, if you're interested in that kind of thing, please reach out to Marissa Blake. That's her photo there. And you can contact her about the details for TEA NextGen. It's a great way to get involved in my industry if you like this kind of thing. So a little bit more about back in my work life. I've built theme park rides and shows for Disney and Universal, and many other companies around the world over the last 30 years. My efforts were mostly in the physical world, like I said, for making physical visits and experiences that you get to participate in. But for me, the whole situation with COVID changed so much of my world, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. My industry is still, for the most part, shut down. There's some areas where it's reopened, but a lot of it is still shut down, or it's got limited capacity openings, or it has delayed openings, like the Disneyland that's closest to me in Anaheim. It's been devastating to my industry, and it made me think that a more digital solution may be a way to help my industry to move forward and grow. So that's a little bit what I wanted to talk about today. You know, there's a lot of conversation about physical to digital. And I know I'm moving my work in the theme park industry from that physical environment to what I might consider a hybrid with a digital environment. You know, it's a transition and a transformation for me personally as well. And I started with a relatively simple initiative, the first one, and have been working towards a more complex initiative, and we'll get to that in a second. So let's talk about the first initiative. My first initiative is a thing called ask.buzz, and it's interesting. There's a really long story here, but we don't have time for it, so I'm going to shorten it for you. There's a gentleman named Buzz Price who is now passed away, but he was a very famous Disney legend in our industry, and he was the guy that worked, one of the guys that worked directly for Walt Disney, and he did basically all the math behind the feasibility of theme park projects in the early days, including the analysis to pick the actual site in Anaheim, California, for the original Disneyland park. Years and years later, he published a book that spelled out all the math that he used. And so he made it basically public. And so what we did was we took a website, or we created a website using his math so that we could allow other people, maybe from the public or other attraction designers, to be able to utilize that math in what they were trying to get done. So basically, you can use Buzz's math to predict certain parameters that are important when designing a new theme park or a new attraction. And so I started with this initiative, number one, because it was very doable, and I felt like it was very something that we could accomplish in a hurry. And so we launched it last week. So yeah, there's the logo for it. And so when you go to ask.buzz, you're literally interacting with Buzz Price, the man himself. In a way, he's an animated cartoon, but he allows you to input some data about your attraction, what you'd like, you know, the attraction you'd like to build, including the attendance, which is the number of visitors that you think will be there every year. Once you input this information, you ask Buzz his opinion, and then he returns some very simple information for you to be able to use, including, again, how many people are in the park in a particular day, and what the maximum number of people the park needs to hold. And then as you get more into it, you can scroll down and see that there are some other questions that you can ask Buzz, and he will return that information as well, including, you know, what's the maximum number of attractions you need, and how many food and beverage seats do you need, and well, you can go play with it and see for yourself. If you're interested in seeing it specifically, you can snap this QR code. It'll take you directly to ask.buzz, and you can play with it. And I wanna hear what you have to say about it. But it was my first digital initiative. So let's move on to the second one. The second initiative is called gathersmart.com. And so it's at gather-smart.com. And for me, again, I talked about a little bit earlier, my industry has seriously been damaged, and seriously is still hurting from COVID. And the closures due to that is damaging my world, like it is for so many other people in other industries as well. So for us, GatherSmart was really trying to come up with something that would help to get people like you and me, that would be able to help our local businesses, people that are in the business of gathering, you know, whether it's a theme park, a local theme park, or a restaurant, or a concert venue, or a hotel, and everything in between that's travel and tourism related, that we could get those gathering locations going again as fast as possible, because I knew it kind of started with that process of your local business. So really what Gather Smart is it's a movement, right? It allows people like you and me to get active, and it will end up being an app and a website. We have version 1 of the website up now, and I encourage you to go check it out. But the ultimate website is going to have the ability to connect with businesses in your region, or if you want to travel outside your region, to be able to understand what they're doing to keep you safe and what your obligations are. And, you know, those rules are changing so fast with local regulation that we felt it was important to have a place and an app where that was all being tracked, and that you would know what was going on with your local business, or if you were traveling to another location, you would know what was happening with that business. I can't tell you too much more about it because it's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But I encourage you to go to the existing website at gather-smart.com and sign up, so that when the app comes out, I can certainly contact you, and you can get access to it, download it, and start getting active in your neighborhood to help the local businesses in your neighborhood to survive and thrive. So yeah, please go get signed up, and we'll get connected to you. I'd also like to get your feedback if there are any difficulties that you think your local businesses are going through right now, or if there aren't any, because that's very possible as well, that because of COVID, maybe it's over in your area, it's reopened and everything's fine. Just, I'd like to hear that as well. You know, let me know. I'd really like your feedback on that. So Gather Smart, gather-smart.com is the second initiative. The third initiative is what is basically the title of this talk, which is the digitization, or the digitizing of the theme park visit. And there's a lot of talk out there about this. You know, people have been trying to figure out what that means. You know, I think it's a worthy name, the digital theme park visit. And we're brainstorming right now within my company, within my group, like to try to figure out what that is. But I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know exactly what it is yet. I'm sharing this a little bit in advance, that we're trying to figure out, and it's a really fascinating problem to solve. What's interesting about it to me also is it's a thing that's a little bit beyond what my industry is currently doing, but it's coming up fast, and it's going to need to come up fast. So maybe before we talk more about the digital theme park visit, let's look at what my industry is currently trying to do to make the theme park experience more interesting. The first project I wanted to kind of just touch on real quick is, you know, Disney is working on a complement to this area, this new land that they built called the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. This new initiative is actually a hospitality offering, or a lodging experience, called Galactic Cruiser. And basically what happens is you spend the night in a fully immersive world. So you can tell by some of the artwork that, yes, it's a little bit hotel, but it's also an entire experience that you have inside this sort of immersed world, which is, I think it's interesting, but it still requires you to be there in person, right? It's a physical experience, not a digital platform. Moving on to another example, Universal Studios is building several Super Nintendo worlds. The first one's in Japan, but it's going to be in other sites as well. It's a fantastic combination of real world combining high tech and in that world, so that you can kind of feel like you're playing the Nintendo games in a real space. Again, very immersive, but you have to be visiting it in person for the most part to take part in that. You can't access it remotely or from a digital standpoint. So that's what's currently going on. You know, people say, well, what about VR in theme parks? And I think what's interesting about VR from our industry is that we have been using it for the past 3-4 years. And for the most part, it was for the purposes of putting virtual reality on a roller coaster. I mean, it's novel, and I think people liked it when it first came out. But if you look now, most of it's already been removed, and it's only been a year or two since that occurred. So the question is, you know, is that really the right answer? And I would say no, it's probably not the right answer. So let's go on. So when you look at other digital experiences or other, let's say, digital visits, I started seeing some of those patterns happening in the tourism industry. You know, there's this idea of virtual tourism. There's also virtual experiences that happen in the sporting industry, whether it's football, soccer, or other large sporting events. You know, there's the use of sort of virtual technology to bring you to those. And then also you're seeing this in the concert industry, right? So they're doing virtual concerts where you get to participate either through VR or on a flat screen on your phone. And I think that's really interesting from that standpoint. But when it comes to the theme park visit, and you say to yourself, you know, what is a truly digital visit for a theme park experience? I got to tell you, I still don't know what it is. Maybe it's virtual reality. Maybe it's something you can see from your phone. And this is where I'd kind of like some help from you guys on this. You know, you're going to have a different perspective than I am. You may be coming from more of a digital experience than I have. You know, because I spend so much of my time in the physical world, and I do believe it's the two worlds coming together. So for me, I try to look at it like, okay, well, what would it take to make a digital visit? And I think that for me, it had to have 3 different components. I think number one, it had to be entertaining. It had to be enjoyable. It should be fun. It should be something that, you know, that makes people enjoy what they're doing. I think number 2, it should be captivating, which means it should keep my attention for longer than a few minutes. I mean, it's fine if it works for short periods of time, but I think it has to work for longer periods of time as well, even because most of the time, you know, you'll have a theme park visit that could be anywhere from a couple hours to the whole day. So it has to have that kind of impact to it. And I think the third thing is it should be accessible. It should be on demand, available on your phone or any other advanced display system, whether that's VR or something else that happens in the future. So I think those are the 3 aspects that I've been looking at when I'm trying to figure out, well, what could this digital visit be? So again, I invite you, you know, I'm doing this work through my company called the Producers Group. And I wanted to give you the ability to access that and see what else we're doing. But really, it's to be able to reach out and give me your ideas. So we have a group within our company called TPG Media, and it's the media side of what we do at the Producers Group. And if you want to find out more about what TPG is or what we're doing, you can use these QR codes to snap, and that'll get you to our sites on Facebook and YouTube. Like I said, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, and I'd like to have a conversation to try to figure this out, because I think it's a really interesting problem to have, and I think it may not be what our industry is working on right now, but it's certainly going to be the very next thing, I think. So it's kind of an exciting prospect. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, and thanks for giving me this time to be able to share a few ideas with you. And so, you know, if we run out of time or you come up with a question later, again, please reach out. I'm open. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. And so again, thank you. It's really been great to be able to speak with you today. And I'll leave you with those QR codes again, just so if you want to take a snap of them, you can. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to make the screen a little bit bigger. Let me stop sharing my screen, and then I'll get to your questions here. So thanks for your patience there. First question is, what do I foresee the industry to be like in 1 year or 3 years? So honestly, from my perspective, we've been seriously harmed by coronavirus. I think anybody that's in the gathering industry has been seriously harmed. So to answer your question, I think the first year is going to be just basically recovery and sort of get back to it. A lot of these companies have lost a lot of money, and they're going to have to sort of go through this period of recovery so they can sort of come back from that. So I think the first year, I don't think a lot will change. I mean, we may actually lose a couple of companies from our industry, but the idea is that if they can survive, we'll want to see them. We may have to help them survive, but I think that's part of it. Let's see which ones can survive this first year. Probably not a lot of change from an experience standpoint. But in terms of 3 years, I do feel like the COVID situation will be well behind us. And you'll likely start to see some of these current offerings becoming more commonplace, whether that's an immersive experience like a Galactic cruiser experience in another world, or maybe with a different intellectual property at another location. You'll see those kinds of things. I think a lot more interactivity with wearables, utilizing the apps on your phone, whether it's in combination with a wristband or some other device that you can wear. I think that's what's going to be coming more in like 3 years. So thank you for that question. Any other questions you guys have? Okay, second question is, now that there is so much Zoom fatigue, wow, do I know that word? Thank you for sharing that one with me. How do you create the excitement and wow in a digital amusement park experience? This is part of the bigger question, really. And we've, like I said, we've brainstormed this. We've gone back and forth. And I think the answer hasn't yet revealed itself. If you look at some of these other experiences that are maybe comparable, like the virtual visit to Yosemite or the virtual visit to the Louvre, for instance. And again, I go back to tourism because I think it's very comparable to what we're trying to look at here. I'll tell you, the biggest issue I have with it is, just in all honesty, I just don't think it holds your attention. It's very much like a virtual version of almost like a park map or something really basic. It's like the most basic information. The camera moves through the space, and maybe if you're lucky, you'll have some sort of narrative coming from a host that can tell you a little bit about what you're looking at, but the experience feels very flat to me. And maybe that's acceptable for now, but I don't think it's going to be acceptable if we're really going to try to tackle this idea of a digital theme park visit. If it's flat, you're not going to want to do it very long, right? So, I mean, you can go on YouTube now and watch, videos of on-ride POVs, and that's pretty interesting. But it can't be the only thing that you're going to see. You could see simple video of someone walking down or some sort of camera shot down a common area or sort of area development. The common areas between all the rides, and you could see other people walking around in there. But I think it needs to be something more than that. And I'd really like to hear your thoughts on maybe other industries that have tackled something similar to this and where you've seen it work, or even some new idea that you might have that says, oh, if it did something like this, this would be really entertaining. But I think it has to be more than just video of the rides and a video version of the park map. So I hope that answers the question. Okay, so the third one is, does your industry feel like there's a silver lining in all of this, in the ability to reach additional guests through digital experience, specifically in those that were never able to travel? Yeah, I think that's part of what got me to get to this point in this quest was we've seen this in I mentioned Yosemite, but there's other national parks that have done maybe not digital initiatives, but years ago, I worked on a large screen theater project at the Zion National Park in Utah. And the whole purpose of that theater was to allow people that didn't have maybe as much mobility, and Zion National Park is beautiful, but it does require you to walk around, move around. And what I think they were surprised to find out was that just as many people or more watched the large screen theater experience, which was 30 to 45 minutes of what it's like to be in Zion National Park, which is literally right next door to the theater. But a lot of people didn't take the time or have the ability to go into the park, so it became a substitute for the activity itself. And I think if you transfer that forward in time, that's where we are now. Maybe people can't travel to the theme park, or it's cost prohibitive, or there's some other reason, or maybe they just want a variety. But I think the digital theme park visit will allow you to satisfy all those different needs, and it's going to deliver something that you can't get. It has to deliver something that you can't get physically. So yeah, I think that's really what's going on with this idea that, okay, not everybody can travel, but let's try to give them something to experience what we have, that experience the offerings that we have. Okay, great. So I think we're almost out of time. I really want to say thank you to everybody out there that decided to listen. If you have any questions on anything else that comes up later, please feel free to reach out. And I want to say thanks again, and hope to meet you guys. Take care.